What's up YouTube? Absolute here with yet another video. This is going to be a how-to video on how to install a RPM front skid plates from a Slash two-wheel drive into a Stampede chassis. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to do this quickly and effectively and get her done. So first step, I got a new chassis here for you guys, but I actually have another one that's essentially pre-ready, if you will. Before we do that, of course, this is going to be to install the front skid plate for Traxxas Slash two-wheel drive, part number 81252 from RPM. They're available in blue and black still. I believe no other colors at this time. Maybe green? I don't think so. But of course, this actually adds a lot of rigidity. Here, of course, you have your standard Stampede front skid plate. You can get them aluminum, such as this one right here, STRC. Not my favorite for skid plates, especially because it's going to scratch up really bad and things like that, especially when they're not just non-anodized aluminum. But when you got a green one, red one, blue one, although they look fantastic, they're going to scratch up pretty quick. So unless you got a shelfer there, it's going to look good when you first install it, but as soon as you drive your truck, it's gonna hit up pretty hard. So I'm a big fan of that. Plus, these are really weak. As you can see, there's not much plastic going on here, and they break. And the front end of the Stampede is only held on by these two screws otherwise. So that's definitely an area that can use a lot of help. I've actually broken here before on a major impact as well. So that RPM front skid plate really does a tremendous job on going ahead and helping you have a lot more rigidity in the front of your vehicle. Okay, so again, it's made for two-wheel drive Slash and not the Stampede, and so it's not a direct fit. So a few modifications are needed to make that happen. So what I've gone ahead and done here is the first thing you have to do is you want to go ahead and take the skid and you want to install it in. First, you definitely got to make sure that you take it and fully install it too as well, because it's going to seat in a different way if you just let it like this and then drill your holes, which I'm going to show you here in a second. It's not going to seat properly. So what you got to do is you want to make sure that you go ahead and you bolt these down, which you've already gone ahead and done so for you guys in the interest of time. Go ahead and bolt those down. Once that's bolted down, you're going to find yourself with two holes here. Of course, this is the previous tab for the skid plate right there. Pre-drug holes with that. You don't really need to worry about those tabs. They stay pretty hidden anyways. You can cut them off if you want to, but I really don't do that. So of course, once you lay that down, you're going to go ahead and you're going to need to drill your two holes. Right here, you can see that I already have screws in it. But you can take a look that once I had those two bolted down, then what I did was I went ahead and took my drill bit, and I used a 332 bit right there. Oh, there we go. Right there, located on my drill there, and then I went ahead and just screwed those two holes down. Of course, make sure that those are bolted in place. Once that's done, that's going to be able to, of course, be attached there. Now, when you do that, problem is on the Stampede two-wheel drive, right there where that bolt needs to go is a little tab for your power switch. Now, it's not really used anyways, especially now. Before they were, and the wires would be able to reach, but all speed controls now have this smaller lead wire. Unless you're really to cut that and add an extension, which would be a hassle in paint itself and would be difficult to make it look clean, no one really uses that anymore. There's not really the capabilities. Although it would be nice to have the switch there seated in place, attached to that. It's not really something you can really do anymore. So it's pretty outdated as it is, with all the new speed controls out now that don't have that. So it's not something that's really going to be used. And so I got another chassis here for you guys. I'm going to show you how to do this. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is when you drill the hole, it's going to be this back section here. It's going to be this part here. So you can cut it out with a Dremel, and that's actually what I used to do, is just go ahead and start chopping. But I found a much easier way to go ahead and do that. So, and then cleaner as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and when you drill those two holes, it's actually going to come down right in the middle of this one. And you can actually do it before or after you do this. It's not really a big concern. First thing you do is to take your flush cutters, which, by the way, may I say, is one of the most useful tools in my arsenal. I use it all the time. I got this one at Harbor Freight for a couple bucks. But I definitely use it a lot in this hobby. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take that tab and you're going to snip it on the sides. This flush cutter is starting to wear out on me here. I'm not hearing that click, but there we go. Let's do that other side one more time here. And cut. Okay, I think that should be enough. I'm not really hearing the nice clicking, cutting sound there. It should be, I think it should be enough. We'll find out. Okay, so after I did that, I'm going to go ahead and take some pliers. Needle nose are fine. And I'm going to bend that back so that it just breaks off right there. So don't worry about it actually breaking off anywhere else. It's going to be a weak point and it's going to break somewhere else. So you see right there, it's a lot cleaner than when I used to dice it with a Dremel on the sides there, and it's much, much faster as well. I got some residue left over on the sides and some, so I can actually take that and snip it down a little bit more with some flush cutters, especially when these were a little sharper. It worked a little better. There we go. Just kind of snip that down right there, if you will. Once that's done, then you want to go ahead and kind of clean up that area. Just want to go ahead and take this area and you want to just clean it out there so that's nice and flat, and then the bolt can sit down there, because what's going to happen was the bolt's not going to come in from the other side. It just won't grip enough. It's going to have to go down into it. I'm going to show you guys what I mean here. So there's what we're going to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take my Dremel, and I purchased this one. If you guys don't have a Dremel, don't have the money to afford one, I picked this up at Harbor Freight for the reason that it was a little rotary tool and it had a ton of attachments with it, and it was on sale for 10 bucks. Once I did that, I figured, well, when it burns out, I'll just go ahead and pick up a Dremel. And it's been like a year and a half now, and this thing is still going strong. And so it came with a ton of attachments. It was worth the money, and I've actually ended up going ahead and picking up a whole bunch more. Here's my collection from Dremel. You purchase these aftermarket. These are like each about 7 bucks, except for this one, which is tungsten carbide bit, and that thing is like $11. But that thing will burrow through anything. So what I did is I went ahead and used a bit similar to this. You can use something that's a little smaller like this one. The bigger one won't really fit, but this is pretty much the perfect bit for that. Makes a nice square edge on both bottom and the sides. I went ahead and used this bit here, and then I went ahead and squared out that hole. The after effects were, of course, this. And you can see it now that down there it's much cleaner. You can see the bolt sticking up from there, but you can see that below that bolt that there's no, little plastic tabs or anything like that. It just looks clean in there. Once that's done, of course, you're going to get some dust and things like that. You want to go ahead and just clean that up. So that's a step so far. Pretty quick and easy. And now the last thing to do is to go ahead and attach the front skid. Now this comes, of course, with these two little tabs here. Made for alternate steering with the slash 2-wheel drive, since it of course uses a different steering setup. So what we're going to do is actually you can leave that on, no big deal, but I mean I think it kind of looks funny. I'm going to go ahead and cut those off for you. And then also this tab here, when I first ran these, I went ahead and took the huge trouble of measuring and drilling out a hole in the middle of the chassis. It sits right about at this location here, right beneath where my little NOS ball is there, where that wire is. It's right about halfway point there. A little closer actually to this tab. And I went ahead and I drilled that out and I attached it and figured, this is going to add some strength. First major impact I had, when this broke, it actually came down and it took a big chunk of the chassis with it. And so because I had that drilled, the chassis took a big chunk out of it, where otherwise it would have been fine. And so I've gone ahead and since and strayed from that, doing so. And so that's actually been fine. It's nice because it's actually adds some support, but it doesn't need to really attach itself. It's only going to hurt it if you do that. Sometimes also, I've also seen where this area here can cause some binding. So if you need to kind of just take that down a little bit on the sides there, very, very carefully, just so it scoots in a little bit better and seats a little bit better. I've had times where it doesn't really want to slide in the holes all the way. This one's not an issue there, but I've had times where it kind of just seats a little bit back and the bolts don't really want to go in. It's going to cause damages to your bulkhead. So if you need to take that down just a little bit so it could just seat in a little bit further, go ahead and do so. I'm going to go ahead and finish installing this for you guys and then show you the finished product. Okay, and there you have it. 1 RPM front skid from a slash 2-wheel drive there installed on the Stampede. Again, I did not go ahead and drill out this hole here, just left it at that. I know there was one of my RCs where the way things were seated and the way I drilled the holes, I actually had to take this down just a little bit. So if you have to do that because the skid's not really sitting down properly, then go ahead and do so. On this one, I didn't really have to do that. Something to note as well, when you're tightening up this front skid here, don't go ahead and put these bolts on and tighten one of them down all the way and then do the other one. That's actually going to make it seat funny. So what you want to do is you want to first get them in, and then you can go ahead and continue tightening them down. individually too as well. But you want to make sure that both of them are in before you do so. Once that countersunk gets in there, it'll kind of push it out a little bit too. So make sure that both screws are in, and then you can go ahead and tighten them up. Again, you want to prevent any damage and stripping to your bulkhead, aluminum or plastic, and so you want to make sure that those seat properly. Looking back here, now what I had to do, of course, was to go ahead and use a bolt to come down from the top, and then a lug nut from the bottom. As of course the skids regularly, like the back one, you just have to screw in from the bottom. That's typically fine. However, there's just that thin section of chassis that won't hold, and it'll initially hold and you'll be able to screw it in, but I found that on a severe impact that can strip out easily. And so this has been a pretty bulletproof way of doing things. And with this front skid now, with that support that this offers in between, you know, there's all this additional plastic, and then really the being held like that and bolted in place in the front, just has a dramatic impact on the front end of this thing. And they'll be able to take tumbles after tumbles on its front end without breaking like it previously would. The stock front skids just don't do enough. So there you have it. If there are any questions you guys have about this front skid or any other questions that you have, let me know. In the meantime, I appreciate you checking out my channel. Hit the like button if you would, and I'll see you guys later.